Hello, my friends. Welcome back to part 4, I think, and the final part of Modern Day Athena. She is a grayscale coloring page that I have available in my Etsy shop. If you are just finding this video for the first time, this is what she looks like on white paper. This is the light grayscale on white paper. And I thought I would just pull it out so that I could hopefully show you what I would do if I was coloring this on white paper. You know, just here and there, maybe give some tips. So we'll see. Hopefully I can remember to do that. Okay, so I'm going to be using Prismacolors on this one. And we can just go ahead and get started. So let's see, I have my white pencil around here somewhere. Oh, before I forget, if you haven't done it already and you are a fan of my channel, if you subscribe to my channel, do me a huge favor and just jump up there and hit that like button on the video. It will that would be awesome if you could do that for me. It makes a huge difference. I know you hear me say this in all the videos, and I didn't want to do it, but I feel like maybe it's necessary because I'm discovering a lot of things about YouTube and the videos that a lot of people are not aware of. That I was surprised that they weren't aware of. And liking and commenting is one of those things that I think we don't do because we don't realize how effective it is in helping out the channels that we love. Kind of the same with the ads. I was interested to discover that a lot of people don't realize that the ads on the channel, it's not all just revenue that goes to YouTube, which a lot of people think. A lot of the channels that have monetization on them, we make a little bit of money off of, you know, those ads if they get watched. So I'm not trying to convince you to watch ads. I'm just letting you know that that is the case because I was informed that some people did not realize that. So anyway, So I'm starting with white, and I'm just kind of, you know, just like hair. It's just like hair, feathers, fur. It's really all the same. You're just going to make your strokes in the direction that the hair is, or the feathers or the fur is growing. And I do like to twist my pencil as I do this sometimes to help me to keep a sharper point so that there's always kind of a sharp edge on the edge of the pencil. And we're just going to go around and put in these long feathers. Now, if you are doing this on white paper, you obviously would not need to be doing this. And perhaps you would pick a darker gray color and do the same thing, but very, very lightly, so that basically what you're going to be doing is putting in the shadows of the feathers rather than the white of the feathers. And then when you're finished with that, you could come in with your white to blend and smooth out what you just did. So that's what I would be doing if I was doing this on white paper. I would be accentuating some of those darker shadows. And depending on which grayscale version you printed, whether it's the light version or the some of the darker versions, your your necessity for doing that will be a little bit less, because obviously the darker grayscale, those shadows are going to show up a little bit more. So you can either get away with not putting those in, or it won't be as hard to find them. So as I'm putting this this pencil down, I'm flicking away from the paper as I get to the end of my stroke, so that the end of the stroke is very feathery and soft. What that does is it makes that line get much thinner at the end, because you're not pressing down as hard when you get to the end. And so that really helps to make a difference in the look of the feathers, rather than doing straight, thick lines. Just flicking those feathers in, just like you would flick fur or hair. And then I want to kind of create, in a barn owl, they have these feathers that are layered around the outer edge. So those are going to be heavier and brighter. We want those to kind of stand out even more. And again, pulling out a reference photo of a barn owl might really, really help you in knowing where to put some of these colors. And they come in, they're all a little bit different. So if you are not going to follow along in this video, and you're going to just kind of watch me and then go do it yourself, those reference photos really help. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of 50% French gray in here, just to accentuate that shadow and make those look like it's a couple of layers of feather. All right, let's put the beak in. Actually, before I do that, I'm thinking I might try and go a little bit brighter. little bit more layers of the white to get it to show as bright as I would want it to be on this paper. Okay, so feathers on the beak. And I'm going to use, I wish Seashell Pink was a little bit more pink. It's quite beige in my opinion. I'm gonna put a little bit of white down the center of the beak. And this is Seashell Pink, which I don't know how pink I would consider that. So then I'm gonna throw a little bit of Rosy Beige on here, just a touch, just to give it that little tiny little bit more pink color. Maybe a little more white. All right. Debating on pulling out some cooler grays. Maybe not. Let's see. So this is still that 50% French gray for the kind of a shadow there under his beak. But I might just throw a little bit of the cool gray in here too. Okay, let's pull out I've got pumpkin orange and I've got mineral orange. Let's start with the mineral orange. It's lighter. And very lightly, I'm just barely putting any pressure down. I kind of want to just glaze this color in here. So see, it's tinting the white that we put down, but really not, it's not super bold. It's still soft. The same thing around this eye. All right, let me look and see. I think mineral orange is what yep, so mineral orange is a little bit redder. So now we can get a little bit more bold in the look that we are going for here. These are my favorite birds. I just love them. There's an Instagram. Well, there's probably a couple, but there's specifically one that I subscribe to it's like an owl sanctuary. And so they post videos of their owls in this sanctuary. And oh my gosh, they're so cute. And they have so much personality. Okay, before I continue with my story, I'm gonna take this pumpkin orange and I'm gonna put it up here in the feathers around his face, up at the top a little bit. I think that before the advent of all these social media sites where you could post videos at any time, you know, we can see anything that you want to see in a video, you pretty much can see now. And part of me thinks that that's, you know, not such a good thing. But part of me also thinks that it's a wonderful thing. And what it's done for me personally is that it's shown me how much personality animals have, how they're not just, they're, you know, when it's a still photo, when you're looking at a still photo of an animal, of any animal, you know, it's a photo of the animal, and you don't get to experience their their true selves until you get to see them on video doing things. And then it becomes very, very apparent how very much aware and sentient these creatures are. Not just owls, any animal. Anyway, I'm going to stop because I could go on about a whole lot of things at this point. So I'm just going to color. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and do what? Let's darken the eyes a little bit with our black. I think I'm going to let the grayscale work for me, and I'm only going to darken the very bottom of that eyeball. I don't know that it really makes a difference. I thought maybe I could get the eyeball to look darker underneath if I didn't color the top, but it's not making much difference. And I am going to use sky blue light here on the I don't know what I would call that. What is that again? The highlight in the eye, the reflection in the eye. I'm coming to believe that sky blue light instead of white will give you a much more realistic reflection in the eye. You could even go a little bit more blue if you wanted to. We could go with powder blue and add a little bit of that if we wanted to. So, because basically what that reflection is the light and the sky reflecting in the eyeball. And so when you put down blue instead of white, it's a softer and more realistic highlight. You could put, you know, like one little dot of white down if you wanted to, just to brighten it up a little bit more, and that works. Okay, what do I want to do next? We're just gonna work on the head and then work our way down. So just looking at my reference photo a little bit here. I'm gonna put some more feathers right here. And some out here. Actually, I might do quite a few just fluffy lines out here because this is going to be a lot lighter than what I'm going to do on the top of the head. Okay, I'm going to put down some eggshell. And this doesn't really have to be flicked. I'm just gonna kind of lay the color down in here to start. I maybe shouldn't have done that. Let's do some white. That's the beauty of the tan paper. White goes right over the top with no problem. Love it. Okay, so white dots. And then little tiny black specks in each one of those white. They're not really circles. They're not dots like, you know, polka dots. They're just a they're just a smush of white color without a specific shape. Just a little scribble of white. And then I'm going to take my mineral orange. I'm going to flick that in. Kind of in between. I don't really want to cover up the white that I just laid down. Just kind of changing, adding some different color into the top of the head so it's not just the eggshell. We want that orangey color. All right, I'm going to do some eggshell, a little bit darker. Use some more feather clumps. Okay, I think I want mostly white down here. Looks like a section I missed with the, there we go. Now we can put our little fluffy feather part in right there. All right, let's go ahead and use the white and put our feathers in the rest of the head here. I think I'm going to start on the outer edge and work my way in. That way the layers of feathers overlap each previous layer. Now, if you're doing this on white, I would probably go ahead and put, you know, if you're doing this on white, I might actually go ahead, if I was doing this, I would still go ahead and fluff in with my white pencil some feathers. And then I would come in with maybe 20% French gray. And just use, you know, skinny strokes. You're adding in some darker color, maybe even beige. Might even use some beige. You don't want to turn the feathers white, tan or beige. You're just kind of adding in the darker bits around the white, if that makes sense. I hope it does. But yeah, you'll be able to get your color variations on the white paper as well. You're just gonna be careful not to cover up too much of the white. And back to this. I am going to be doing a lot more pages on white paper. I think I mentioned that before. I've already got several that I've started filming, so have no fear, we'll do some white ones too. Okay. And then we need some we need some light umber. I'm gonna do that on these. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. I think I like that. I might just go ahead and just really lightly put this in here. This is going to be where some shadow is, so we might as well just put it in there right now. And actually in here. And what the heck? Let's do it down here too. This is in the darker part of the grayscale. You can see where this kind of goes, but do it really lightly. I'm just glazing some color on top so that when I go to put my white on, it blends a little bit. Hopefully that's the right thing to do. Since the first time I did this, there was nothing for me to go. I was just drawing it. Okay, so a little bit of mineral orange went right there. And let's go ahead and do the chest. So on the chest is really fluffy and soft, and you're not necessarily seeing pencil strokes because it's just quite thick and fluffy. So I don't think I'm going to flick with my pencil. I think I'm going to use little round strokes and just build the color up. And then I'll come in after I do this and maybe add some more layers where I'm going to brighten the color a little bit more than what I do to start. Okay, this is, okay, I'm gonna look at this a little bit more carefully. This is a feather, a wing feather. So, okay. I don't want to cover that up too much. Be careful, I don't want that. Let's see, what do we want? We do want to put these loose little chest feathers in. This. Oh, that's still white. Okay, let's put the shadow in for his wing. I'm going to use my French gray, which is somewhere. There it is. Okay, so right in here. I want all of that to be a little bit shadowed. Can always make that darker later as we get going, but I just don't want to forget. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more shadow in here. All right, let's do some brighter, fluffy hairs, not hairs, feathers. Feathers. I think I'm just going to glaze a little bit of this beige on here. Probably not needed, but okay, that's not bad. Yeah, let's just go ahead and work top to bottom. So we'll get down to that in a little bit. So let's work on the his wing a little bit. So these areas in here are basically black and white. So sharpen your pencil. Plan, if you sharpen it too sharp, plan on the tip, the very tip breaking. It's just the nature of Prismas. But what we want to do is we want lots of little tiny dots. And a sharper pencil does help to do that, but again, you know, if you press too hard, you get the tip breaking off. So you'll have to decide what, you have to find that happy medium where the pencil is sharp enough, but the tip is not breaking. Little very short lines work well. They don't have to be dots. They can just be little super short lines. Sometimes that's easier than doing a dot because it lets you put down more of the pencil. And actually, what might be a nice thing to do, instead of using your pencil sharpener, these sanded sharpeners are really nice, because instead of sticking it in the sharpener and taking off more of the wood casing than you actually need, you can just gently sharpen it on that sandpaper, and then that gives you your tip back a little bit without putting it through the electric sharpener. Those sanding things are really nice, but you only need a little bit, or just to press down so very, very lightly, because they really do take the lead, pencil lead, not that it's really called lead, but they do a good job of taking that off. So anywhere else? No, I think that's good. Although while I have this in my hand, I am gonna just put the white right there on that edge. If you're working on white, you would go ahead and accentuate, especially if you're doing it with this light grayscale, then you would just come in and put in the darker lines. And then when you go over it with the white, it'll kind of blend and soften those lines a little bit. And yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of white, just feather it in some of the brighter areas. Actually, I could probably do that afterwards if I wanted to, but I want to keep some of these light. This is actually a feather. We could do this way if we wanted to, with lines. Let's do a little bit of this down here. And maybe a little flicks Let me use my a little bit of these little hairs. Okay, so we're going to use Eggshell and Mineral Orange for this plumage. So again, there's no real super defined feathering in here. We're going to just kind of, with circular motions, get this yellow, this eggshell in here on the page. And then I will come in with Mineral Orange and do the same thing. Working around the black and white that we didn't put any black down yet, so, but these little black and white areas, stay away from those. We've got, this is orange. You can do this big feather with the straight lines because we kind of want to see the feathering on the big feather. I don't know what else to call it other than feathering, which kind of is what it is. But now I think we'll take some of that pumpkin orange. So let's darken up some of these areas here. This actually is another feather, this one right here. So before I forget, I'm going to come in and put some shading right here. What did I just use? French gray, 50% French gray. Sorry, I'm getting caught up and I'm not naming the pencils. I'll be a little more cautious with that. Okay, so we have the pumpkin orange. Let's get a little bit more of that in here. We're going to use this to define those feathers a little bit more. So we do lines with that. this one right here. Let's see, let's put some dark. This is still the pumpkin orange. And let's get some mineral orange. I missed a feather here. Okay. Going to take some 50% cool. And just do this. Just make those feathers a little bit more easy to see. The feathering of the feather. I don't know what to call it. Yeah, I don't know what to call it, but I want some of those to be a little brighter. Brighter. Okay. And we need to get some really dark in here so that it needs some depth. I'm adding a little bit more of the pumpkin orange. Up in here just because. And I'll blend that with eggshell a little bit. Okay, I want to do the black. These little black and white thingies need a lot more black in them. And they're kind of, how do I explain it? They're like a dot with a point on each end. Some of these don't have enough white. So I'm just gonna add some more black in here. Black dots are much easier to do than white dots. Okay, so this is something that I wasn't paying very close attention to that I really should have. So some of these little black and white dots is basically a white line. Oh, God, what am I trying to say here? Getting all tongue-tied. And it's not super important. It just depends on how seriously freaky you are about trying to get realism in here. I don't know if that's, I may not care so much now, but basically on the owl, they've got this white, they've got all the little mini little dits and dots and stuff, and then they've got a brighter white bit, and then there's a triangular shape of black coming down from it, and often one above it too. So they stand out a little bit more than just the dots of black and white. And that's almost on the end of every feather. So I don't know that I can achieve that now because of the way that I did this, but we'll try. So little triangular shapes above and below a white dot. Yeah. All right, I'm going to do a little bit more of these down in here just because I want to. Okay, let's take some eggshell and just very lightly right here on the edges of these feathers, we're going to put this on. And then when we go to put the really dark orange on, these will keep everything lighter and blend in, and I think will look really cool. So white, not white, eggshell. We're going to want some eggshell down here. Am I still in frame? Barely. There we go. And that'll do it for now. Maybe right here. Okay, so now I'm going to use, I wonder if I should go straight in with the Terra Cotta. Now let's start with pumpkin orange, just for this one, and then we'll see. This is Terra Cotta. And then just feather that in over the eggshell. I might have missed the eggshell right there. Maybe some, no, I want pumpkin orange. Okay, so pumpkin orange. And then here is this Terra Cotta. Let's just go ahead and use the Terra Cotta in here. A little bit of eggshell and pumpkin orange. All right, let's stick with the pumpkin orange. Then the Terra Cotta. Then we're going to break out the espresso. We need some shading in here desperately, so that's what the espresso will help us do. Excuse me. Okay, I want a extender. All right, so we're going to use the espresso here, just I'm just using really light circular shading kind of strokes. Here, just obviously just a little line of it. Let's do some under here. So I want the Terra Cotta to show, so I'm really just putting this in the V of the feather line. Okay, I want to add some either black or espresso. Let's just do black. So we need a little bit of lines. And I'm not happy with this feather yet. So I think I'm going to add, what do I want to add? If I do 50% French gray just on the very tips, I don't want to cover up too much of the brightness of the feather, but I also don't like how it looks yet. So, and also, let's do something to make this feather look a little bit more feathery. So just flicking some white. It's amazing what just something like that does. So maybe just a few more flicks on the top to, that's pretty good. Okay, I think I want to put some more lines. Just a few more, just so that it's looking more feathery. That's probably enough. All right. How am I feeling about all of this? Brighten up some areas here. I might want to pull out my whole bean soft white. If you guys are Prisma users and don't have a whole bean soft white, you should get one because they're fabulous for making things even brighter than what the Prisma white can do. So I'm going to break it out, and hopefully I will not be eating my words, because you know, sometimes I say something and then it's like, oops, well, that wasn't true. But because yep, that's working. Because the pencil is so soft, it really makes marks on things. And this might even make a mark on top of your white paper if you have color underneath it. But it was just enough to like, just give it that extra little boost of white. I actually quite like that. Let's do a little bit since I have it in my hand. Okay, that's enough for now. All right, let's keep going. Since I have the white here in my hand. Let's do the feathering on his feet and legs. Little short strokes, kind of like what we did on the face. But you're going to, since we're working on tan paper, you're going to leave some of that paper showing underneath, and that's what's going to give us that depth. If you're working on the white, well, if you're working on the white, I would almost say to print the medium instead of the, of course, by now it's a little bit too late, isn't it? Because you're already, you know, yeah, it's a little bit too late. So if you printed the light color, at this point, you're just going to use your darker colors almost in the same way, because in doing so, you're creating the shadows so that the white that's showing is still showing up as clumps of fur. One of the best ways to do that is to do little V's, but that works pretty well. So if you are on the white paper and the light grayscale, just come in and add some of your darker shadows. We might actually do that on the tan paper too, just in a couple of areas. But anyway, back to the white pencil. Trying to show on white paper and tan paper is a little bit distracting for me. So I hope it's not too distracting for you guys. You know, you want to try and do something for everybody, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to, can't please everybody all the time. That's kind of what I'm learning. Okay, so there's his fluffy legs. And I'm going to go ahead and use this. Actually, I think I want to get a little bit more white in here first, and then we'll take the 50% French gray. Just create some shadows. I have the white in my hand, so let's do this, the back of his tail feather here. Got to get that wing done. Yeah, so I'm just going to use my white. That was pretty easy, and then we'll just put shadow in there. And I might use the gray, the 50% cool gray for that shadow. And sometimes mixing the cool gray with the French gray gives a nice neutral shadow. Because the cool gray can be a little bit too blue, and the French gray can be a little bit too brown. So sometimes when you mix them together, they give you a nice look. All right, I'm gonna take some white and just barely glaze over this edge here. So we're just laying a little bit down where the light maybe would be reflected or catch in there. And then I'm gonna use the 50% French. We can always add darker colors on top. I'm gonna just try and blend that in with with the white that I put down. I think I need a little bit more white. Just blend that together. Okay, and I want that to be, let's see, what do we want? Espresso again, maybe? Let's try some espresso. I am very lightly in a circular motion glazing this color in here. I don't want any harsh lines, kind of like if you would, how you would do a face. You're gonna just really lightly put that in. Kind of like that. And then in here. I'm going to blend that. I don't like how that looks, but I don't want to use white to blend because I don't want to make it lighter, and I don't want to use dark to blend because I don't want to make it darker. I just want to soften that a little bit more. Okay, I'm kind of tempted to put some black in here, which is not, I did not use any black on the original in here, but I like it better. So I don't need a ton, just a little. Okay, some more work needs to be done in here. So we need some shadow in here, more than what my 50% French gray did. So let's try 70% French gray. I don't know that I love that either. So espresso it is. I just wanted it a little bit darker. That's a little bit better. This needs to be darker. That's better. Let's do some little dots in here on the white plumage. That's something that I missed on the original. Just a few on his belly. And we need some more shadow in here. The nice thing about, well, at least the nice thing about my Farben black, because it's such a warm black, and it's a little bit harder than the Prisma if I use it very lightly on top of white, I get shadow, but not a blue shadow like I would if I added black over white. Prisma black over white. Okay, so we've got this bit that I missed. Let's go lighter. Let's do the 20% French gray. And just put a little bit of this in here too. This is the 50. And I feel like there should be some like streaky, feathery lines in here. I think there would be. So a little bit of white just to catch that. That's not bad. Okay, we need to do the feet. So bird feet are weird. They're very reptilian. So we're going to take our white and we're going to make these little white dots. Now these are little circles. Yeah. So these are like the little skin. I'm so not an expert on bird legs, feet. I don't know what to call these, but and this owl also has very hairy feet. So I'm gonna put those hairs in first. And then anything that we need to work around, we will. All right, so I'm going to pull out that beige, rosy beige. I'm going to use that under his feet. And because we put that white down already, it just kind of glides right over the white and doesn't change the color too much. Okay, so let's do a little bit of mineral orange. I'm just guessing on these colors. I mean, I don't know that there's any right or wrong here. I've seen a lot of different colors on bird feet, so I don't think we can make too big of a mistake. Let's take the espresso, because this actually really lightly, this actually is shadow on her skin. Oh, let's not forget his talons. So I'm just putting some of this espresso underneath on her skin to darken that up, and we might use gray, a gray instead of brown on that white part there. Okay, let's put a white highlight first, a real sharp pencil down the center of the talons. And then we can come in with our black. And the gray, this is the 50%. I'm going to just put that on the shirt. Okay. Just kind of looking at it all now. See if there's anything else I want to add. It looks pretty good. I think I'm going to take some of this cool gray. Might need to go even darker. Let's try 70% cool gray. Actually like that. So just glazing a little bit of that in here. Think about maybe doing some more shadowing under here. I am going to use little flicks. And then we'll soften it with the white. I feel like I don't want to just sit here and stare at this thing while I'm rolling film, because that would be really boring. But I do kind of feel like I need to give it a good examination, because I know that there's things that I'm going to want to fix after I stare at it for a little while. I'm going to darken these shadows between the feathers. Let's do a little bit of shading right here. shading in here, but I think I want 70% cool gray. Just to soften, smooth and blend. Maybe a little bit more shadow, but with try the 70% French gray. Going very lightly. All right, he feels pretty good. I'm gonna just put, at this point now, it's all just the tiniest of little details. I'm very detail oriented. That's just the way I am. So this is not anything that you have to, obviously you're gonna work it until you're happy with it. And then when you're happy with it, you're good. I just tend to be a little bit, I tend to keep going for a while. I don't. He's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. One thing I have been noticing is that when I work on white paper, the pictures are definitely more vivid, are definitely brighter. And sometimes you want that. Sometimes I want that, depending on the thingy, on the image. But I do tend to like desaturated colors. I like color. I just like it to be a little bit more, a little softer. And so working on the tan paper definitely does that. It kind of desaturates that really bright color. Oh, speaking of color, before I forget, after I did the background on the last video, I was looking at it and I decided that it just wasn't quite, there wasn't quite enough color on the page. It was a little bit too desaturated. And so I came in with light aqua and sap green light, and just very gently and softly and with a flat edge of your pencil, I just glazed some more of that color on top of the gelatos. I think we used gelatos for this page. I had to think about it for a minute. It's been a few days since I've filmed, so it's like, was this oil pastels or gelatos? No, it was gelatos. So that's one of the things that one of the reasons I love the gelatos so much, is because you can place them down as a background, get that first couple layers on there with the gelatos, and then after they dry, you just come in and start glazing colored pencil right over the top of them. You can affect the color this way. You can deepen it or lighten it or whatever, but you haven't had to spend all that time doing a full colored pencil background, which I've done. I know how much work those suckers are. When I first started coloring, in fact, some of my early videos, you can see that I did colored pencil mixed with Gamsol to blend it all out. And while the results was really nice and I was happy with those results, it was just so much work, and you get the same look with a tenth of the work by using gelatos or oil pastels as your first layer. Alrighty, I am pretty much done. I'm thinking about coming in and adding some dots. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a gel pen or not. I don't have a lot of great luck with gel pens, to be honest, but they're a lot more predictable, reliable, sort of. I don't know what to call it. Sometimes when you use those paint pens, the paint comes out a lot more than you want it to. I think this is just too small of a gel pen. Let me see if I can find a bigger gel pen and see if I can do what I want to do on here. Yeah, let me just do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I grabbed a number 10 Jelly Roll pen instead of that 5 that I had, and I think this is going to work a lot better. I'm using the gel pen, the Jelly Roll pen, over like a Posca pen or a paint pen because I'm doing such teeny tiny dots, because I'm doing such teeny tiny dots, sorry, I want to have as much control as possible. The bigger paint pens, the Posca and the I can't think of the other brand that I use all the time, but anyway, those kind of paint pens, sometimes they release and well, why can't I get this to work? The downside of the Jelly Roll pens are that when you're working with them over a waxy or oil-based thing, sometimes there's problems. Yeah, and I'm having problems now. So maybe I'll just do this off camera when I can not worry about it. Okay, there we go. We got that going. Usually these work fine for just doing dots because you're not getting that much of the wax or oil-based material that's sitting on the paper on the tip of the ball. So these are not as probably large as I would like them to be. I might go back and do some of the bigger ones with a different pen. But it's not terrible. I did not want to take the chance of using the big paint pen and having it blob on me. That's not the look I'm going for. So, all right, so that is, that's pretty good. If I do anything more on it, it'll just be, you know, fine tuning with the little dits and dots and things like that. But I think she's done. Yeah, I think she's done. And we managed to keep this right around an hour and a half, which is good. Anything else I want to do to it? No, I think I'm happy. As I continue working, you guys, I have a serious problem. Okay, so I am done. I'm stopping. I am. That, we'll call that a wrap. So thank you for being here with me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's made purchases of my coloring pages. I am making more every week. So here's a thought. If you guys are still with me at the end of this video, can you give me some feedback on the coloring pages? Can you tell me, do you like the mandalas in the coloring pages? Do you wish the mandalas were not there? Do you want to see more just females? Do you like having the animals in the portraits? I personally love having the animals and the girls in the portraits together, but I am curious to know what your thoughts are, and you know, if you had in your perfect world, you know, what would you like to see? I guess that would be my question. I am a little curious about that. So I can't guarantee that I will, you know, do it all, but I would like to know. So until I see you guys on the next video, please take care of yourselves and each other, and happy coloring. Love to you all. Bye.